Hey everyone, I hope everyone is well. Today is the 11th of May and there's been a turn of events. As some of you have watched the news, the lockdown news, well, would you call it a lockdown? I don't know. We're going to discuss. Tell me.
Anti-lockdown.
Anti-lockdown. So I've got Brother Sham. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
And I know we do chat about these topics on a regular basis, but it's good to get an idea of what people think. And again, you can put the comments on the tab below and let us know what your views are. So Sham, I know I've got some questions listed out here, but I'm just going to ask you, have you seen the news broadcast today about the...
I've seen highlights, yeah.
Okay, highlights.
Yeah.
What is your first thoughts?
Crazy. I think it's too early. You know, it's definitely too early. We've had the highest number of death rates in Europe now, technically, probably second largest in the world. We should be a little bit more cautious.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. Do you think it was too soon? And I've been talking to generally people throughout the day, and when you hear people saying it's too soon, it's too soon, it's too soon, but on the flip note, also there are people previous few days before saying that, you know, when is the lockdown going to finish? And in terms of, obviously, there's Scotland and Wales have done it a little bit differently as well.
Yep, they're going to keep it locked down for longer. They've disagreed with England.
So tell me, with all these, and I know we're not any kind of medically based people or scientific, but
we're not medical, political, or even scientific, but we are, one thing for sure is research. We are after knowledge. Mm-hmm. So you do your research, I do my research, so we have our own independent opinions.
Cool. And again, we're going to talk about businesses afterwards because you are a successful businessman. And obviously, I've spoken to you many times about your businesses and the impact it has on you. But let's talk about generally as a family man, as somebody. So in terms of schools, as you have children that go to school?
I have children that go to school, yep.
So what do you think about schools being opened on the 1st of July?
Well, the word opened has to be rephrased. I think it's partially opened because I have received an email from my children's school and only one particular year is going back. So the year that has GCSE this year is the only year that's returning. So year 7, year 8, year 9, they're not going at all. And also my elder daughter who's supposed to be doing her A-levels, she's not going back either.
Let's pause on that A-levels. Let's talk about that. So in terms of A-levels, how is that working? What has the school said to you guys? Like, apparently they're going to give the grades based on their current kind of
whatever work they did, yeah. So they're going to give them some random fake grades, basically. So it's not to do anything with them, it's what they think. So literally they're taking the control and they're just saying, well, we feel we're going to give you this, we're going to give you that. And I feel that's kind of unfair because children have done whatever, they've done a lot of work to get to this stage, preparing for the final exam. But you've got UCAS now deciding on children's fate, I would say, because the government has said the universities have to have a certain cap on how many they have. Mm-hmm. They have to change certain rules. And all of those are going to impact the children of this particular year who were supposed to do their A-levels. Now they're getting some random numbers or whatever they call it, an average score. And that dictates where they go. And I feel that's wrong because now they are deciding and they're dictating what my child's future is going to be or which university she goes to or even which course she does.
Do you think a lot of people have also got the green lights or maybe somebody who's not been achieving the grades? For example, they could have actually done a lot more better and then currently their grades could be predicted at, let's say, whatever it is to pass university.
Well, I don't know 100%, but I've heard a rumor that was, there are some children who regardless what, they would have definitely went in, right? So even if they were predicted for an A, they may have got a grade D, but they're still going to get that course. The rumor is that that's been scrapped just for this year. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much of that is true, but what I do know at home, my daughter, she's kind of worried because she feels, and I also feel the same as well, that people from a certain ethnicity are not really favored that well. So nothing racial, but I think it does happen, unfortunately, in the education system because there are cases where a student has never studied, never done nothing, never even done anything for the test, right? And it has seen that they get better grades. In fact, during the last parents' evening for the sixth form, I went in, and just before they gave the UCAS results, so this is way before the lockdown,
Yeah.
I went to the school to go and check on her grades, and she had, her teachers were giving her grades based on the amount of work she'd done. Except one teacher who, in her science class, right, and the teacher knows who she is, she wanted to give her a grade below what she has achieved.
Right.
So my question was to her, why? And she said, well, we feel that we wanted. I said, no, but you are now deciding which university or what options are open to my child. What gives you that right?
Yeah.
So she then, following day, changes her UCAS to what her actual grades are, rather than predicting something less than what her actual grades were.
So do you think some of the decisions are like more personal decisions in terms of?
I don't think it's personal, but I think it's discriminatory.
Right. Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Definite discrimination going on. I mean, for example, you have 100 kids, right? Now we know, all 100 kids may not have the same level of knowledge or education capacity, but we know, say, for example, 20 of them will do very good. They'll be the A's and B's, right? And we know the rest of them will be slightly below average or average, and with a small minority probably way below the average. But the problem is schools and UCAS, they dictate when they give those scores, when they submit those details to UCAS, they dictate which university your child could go to. Mm-hmm. And I, as a parent, I stood up for my child, and then my daughter obviously ended up applying for a university that she wants to until COVID-19 came, which destroyed everything anyway.
Yeah, so this current topic is about COVID. And again, in terms of recovery, we're going to talk in two different aspects. In terms of like kids recovery, if, let's say, for example, the schools opened on the 1st of July, let's say it opened, how does your child feel like going back to school? I mean, they said there's an element of them going back as well.
She's not confident. She's afraid. She's definitely afraid. She's asked me, she said, Dad, do we have to wear masks and gloves and this and that? I said, well, if you feel unwell, then you should. And I can see the fear, low esteem and low confidence levels on going back, because they are afraid.
Yeah, no, definitely. And obviously there's so many students in one school, and obviously if they're going to stagger, it's going to become really difficult, especially if they're talking about sending reception and the year ones back to school, and these are tiny kids, 5-6 years old.
I'll give you my small view on this, right? So what I think, you've got people who, so the lockdown is going to be eased off. We know a lot of the people who have stayed home are safe. What we're doing now is we are going to be mixing the children's, and potentially, even though the children's are most probably immune to it, but we'll get the children to bring the disease home, which we're going to see a big spike, potentially a big spike in the level of people getting infected by this because of this one decision.
Wow. And that's the thing.
The innocent children.
A lot of people are calling kids as guinea pigs.
They are guinea pigs, yeah.
You know? And I mean, like I say, it's very confusing and very scary as well, because all this is happening all of a sudden now, and parents and children as well, they're a bit confused in terms of what do we do. And I did see a message come from somebody saying apparently if after this period, if you don't send your child to school, you're not going to get fined, but you may want to research and confirm that with your school, children's school as well. So let's talk about in terms of businesses. As you know, a lot of businesses have shut down. A lot of businesses have gone on
bankrupt, completely bankrupt. Yep, completely bankrupt. Yep.
And again, you're a successful businessman, because I've been to your restaurant. And how has it impacted you?
Good and bad, right? So let's go with the good. Good was after the closure, we shut down the restaurant. We made it into a takeaway. Everything looked very good, but that was just it was misleading us. I would technically say that it's affected us a lot in a very bad way. Customers, because of all the restaurants being closed around the area, customers all decided to fall back to us and come to us, basically. So we had a mega surge in the number of customers. During that time, it's all excitement, but we couldn't cater for everybody. And now that's created a negative impact where customers are just not using us, and the business is now declining, going down and down and down until I don't know. I mean, I'm in a stage where now I'm even contemplating, should I even actually be in the business or not? So regardless of how successful I am, I'm thinking of other strategies. How do I get my business back, or what do I have to do to make the business, improve again, or something different altogether, but in the same premises? So I don't know. I'm still thinking that's going to be something big to talk about.
Well, you mentioned other businesses closed down. Are they restaurants as well?
Restaurants, yeah, there are many, many restaurants closed down. In fact, I've got friends and family who are in the West End, and they've been completely demolished. They just gone. Yeah.
So why did the other businesses around locally to where your business is closed down then? What did they stay open?
The biggest problem was a lot of the restaurants. Now, this is something a lot of people don't. People always assume restaurants cater for takeaways as well. Yes, they do. But what you have to understand, restaurants predominantly focus on restaurant clientele who are diners. They don't really focus too much on the takeaway. So takeaways are just there as a side product, as a byproduct. So every now and then you want a takeaway, they will give you that takeaway, but it's not the big focus.
But does that also depend on what area? Let's say where we're more from the central of the city, so you have a lot more deliveries. So people that
central of the city, if you look statistically, you'll see that there are actually probably double the number of takeaways, triple most probably, of takeaways, fast food, than restaurants.
Yeah. So the strategy could be that restaurants may want to consider turning into takeaways, or recruit.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, in our case, during just after the lockdown, we had to literally learn how to be a takeaway.
Wow.
And that was a big challenge for us. And this is when we kind of, honestly, I would say we kind of messed up. So it was all exciting, getting loads of customers, but we've never prepared to be a takeaway.
Yeah.
So we had to relearn how to be a takeaway, how to be that fast takeaway, fast food, when we wasn't a fast food.
It must be really different because obviously it takes away the table service, the waiters, the kind of drink
Oh,
service.
definitely. It takes away everything. I mean, you've got a premium service, you've got a premium restaurant, you're giving that quality service, everything, right? Your food being cooked and then put on the customer's plate instantly. That whole level of authenticity and the freshness and, the quality, it goes away as soon as you put it in a container. It's not there anymore.
No, of course.
It's not there.
Course, yeah.
So takeaway customers will taste things slightly different, not because it's been cooked differently, but because it's been packaged differently, right, in a takeaway and the time it takes. It always tastes different.
Do you know what? I've never actually thought about it like that. But now that you've said that, I actually think, you know what? And do you think it's psychological as well? Sitting down in a restaurant and having the aroma and the ambience and all that?
Oh, sitting down in a restaurant is nothing psychological. I'll tell you what it is. It's an experience.
Yeah.
It's not psychological. When you sit down in a restaurant, you are there. You're there to be treated. You're there to be respected. And the best part is you can sit there and order whatever you want.
Yeah.
Now, on a takeaway, you can't. You're limited. You choose what you want. You've paid for what you want. That's what you're getting.
Yeah.
So if you wanted some more, you're not having that option. So that's the one thing the takeaway takes away from you, right? Whereas when you're dining in, you can sit there, order one item at a time, at your own leisure, relax, have a drink, have whatever, and spend the whole night. And it's a whole different experience.
Paying for the service, to be honest.
It's an experience.
Yeah.
It's an experience.
Because I mean, I've been to, believe me, and I say this with my own experience, I've been to restaurants where I've hated the food. I'm not going to mention the name. There's a few. But the service has been outstanding, and it's just because of the experience. People have gone there because of the name, the fame, and stuff.
But one of the most common things, like so, if you look at cafes, right, or coffee shops, to be more precise,
right,
it's a very, very good example. When you go to a coffee shop, like I won't name any names because we don't want to name any brands, but you go to the top brands coffee shops. What you'll find is they always have free Wi-Fi, right? Now, the reason they have free Wi-Fi is so people can come in and sit and relax and use the Wi-Fi. How many times do you think they're getting a great service? I guarantee you, coffee shops don't give you any service. No. Apart from over the counter, you get your thing, right? So, and how many coffee are you expected to buy? Most probably one. But you get that whole atmosphere where you've got this free internet, you've got this space, it's yours, it becomes your zone. So you don't have to pay for anything to sit there, but that becomes an experience. And I think that's something that, when you're dining inside a restaurant, it's taken like tenfold to a whole different level,
And definitely, and we've seen that many cafes we've been across in the local area, they're all takeaway only. They've put the tables upside down, the chairs upside down, and it's not the same. I mean, I don't think I've actually had a coffee since the lockdowns happened outside, apart from home. And I was saying to my wife a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, I miss having a coffee outside, but I want to sit down. And I think it's just being there in a cozy sofa, and whether the coffee's good or bad, what not.
It doesn't matter. It's the experience. It's the experience. Yeah.
And like I say, so the government have phased this return to work. A lot of businesses have been told people can go back to work as of today, but there was a confusion.
I don't think it was can. So, okay, let me clarify this. The businesses, what they've said was an order. So just like how they ordered the lockdown, must, right? The word was used, must. So Boris Johnson has come back and he's used the same word, must, again. He said, if you are not able to work from home, you must go back to work from Monday, which is today. So everybody was expected to go back to work from today.
So it was announced kind of yesterday, and
announced last night.
Like you could be starting work at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
And you must go back.
You
to
must.
work.
If you can't work from home, you must go, because what it means basically. Okay, let me break it down a little bit. When they said must and this and that, what they're trying to say is, the furlough system and everything.
Yeah.
They had the furlough system since the 23rd of March. They're obviously going to cut back on that. So a lot of the people will see the businesses, if they don't take back their staff, if the people don't go back, they're not going to get that furlough system.
Yeah, so it's basically
financial.
We can't fork out for you anymore.
Exactly. No more handouts.
Yeah,
so that's what it is. Yeah.
And obviously, there's an element of tax being paid as well. They're missing out on the tax being
Absolutely.
paid.
I mean, if you look at the economical factors of what's happened during this COVID-19, you've had thousands of business closed down. Every one of those businesses would have a certain amount of revenue that we cycle through. So all that revenue is gone. The government decided to not charge any rates, so council rates. So all the councils also ran out of money because there's not money coming in. And then you've got the government itself. Okay, VAT, they are still going to charge, but they said that there'll be a little bit of a grace period, right? But you're going to pay VAT on what you've made. Now, most businesses are closed for the last 1 or 2 months now. So again, they're not really expecting much, because a lot of people will actually submit losses during these 2 months. Like there was one business I was talking to, and just last month alone, they have incurred losses of £40,000. They're going to obviously deduct that. So they're not going to pay VAT on that loss, are they? So this is one of the things that we have to understand, that financially the country has taken a big hit, not just the country, the whole world probably.
Yeah.
It's a good idea to go back, but also we have to be cautious, and the government also has to understand certain implications of like what would happen if they go back. I'm sure they probably thought about it, but question now remains: is there a contingency plan?
Yeah, I mean that's the big question, because it was announced yesterday, and people are waking up this morning. We all work in different types of businesses. It's great if you're working in certain types of businesses where you don't have to meet anybody at all. You could be somebody that works remotely. But if you're working, let's say, in a restaurant, or let's say, for example, they've only opened, construction and manufacturing companies, which basically means if you're working in a factory, you'd have to go in and wear your PPE, stand a certain amount of distance. The company has to make sure there's their guidelines.
Talking about right? PPE is a good one, actually. So we know there's so the governments have been struggling with PPE.
We've spoken about this before, haven't we?
Oh, this one's get better. Yeah. This one gets better. So remember, they were going to get some stock from Turkey.
Right.
They didn't get it. So they sent the RAF to Turkey to go and get it. Also didn't get it. And then a few weeks later, UK decides to donate PPE to Germany. Hold on, wasn't you short of PPE? I'll leave it there.
But did the plane not touch the tarmac in the UK, and then the PPE was contaminated? Like it wasn't as standard for it to be used by the general health practitioners.
I don't know how to say this, right? This is quite hilarious, right? So. It's contaminated here, so it wasn't contaminated. I mean, what we're saying, right? So the implication is that when it touched UK, it became contaminated. It wasn't contaminated in Turkey. So is UK contaminated? what's UK doing? Isn't UK's medical standards or practices in order to handle those PPE up to standard?
But it just throws loads of spanners in
And
works,
where
doesn't
did they
it?
go?
Yeah.
What did Germany receive? Was it the same PPE or was it another batch of PPE? Because we didn't hear about any other batch of PPE coming in.
Interesting. It's strange because there's reports of nurses and doctors and whatnot. They're wearing the same PPE for literally all day, and some of them are reusing it as well.
Exactly. They're reusing it 2-3 days. Some people have been told to use it 5 times. But the problem I see, and they've been told to use aprons and whatnot, right? But my question is the government has said lockdown's over, go back, factory workers, this, that. Wear your PPE. Where is the PPE?
But is that the government to provide or the companies? Do they
Governments
have
the governments don't have to provide anything to the employers, right? But my question is if we don't have it available, people are being told to reuse what they already have. Where are the people supposed to get it from?
I think there was a mention of using like cloth coverings as well, right? It does the same job now.
Does it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they did mention about
Well,
the
then in that case, we should
FFP3, whatever it's called.
FFP3, 3M, you name it. The 3-layer medical mask, whatever you want to call it, right? The fitted specialist ones. Ultimately, the whole hoo-ha was in the beginning, only medical experts should wear it. Then it became medical experts don't necessarily have to wear it. They can put a bandana, right? So this is speciality thing that you need somebody to fit it to you on your face with your measurements and everything was a complete speciality, and then it becomes you can wear a bandana.
Right.
So I don't understand. It's beyond my capacity to understand. So but I pick up on these things, because it's good to make note of every time something has been told to us.
So let's reverse back. So we're being told that we can go out, we should wear face masks, right? So if this strategy, this plan was put in place, it's what you just said I picked up on, which is a really good thought. Shouldn't the government have this available or some kind of supply, a company to say, right, we've made a 2 million masks or 3 million masks, yeah? Now these can be given to, no, not given for free maybe.
No. There are companies out there who have been producing hundreds of millions of masks.
Right.
Hundreds of millions of masks. Masks are out there. They're worth pennies. They're worth pennies. Add the shipping cost, whatever, they might turn into a couple of pence, right? 20, 30, 40p a piece, right? They're out there. The problem is bureaucracy, trade deals, whatever, tariffs, you name it, all of those kind of things that create the problem where one country can't send. There are countries that have it, they have excess amount, and they can't send it because it won't go through. And then we have zero access to it. I'll give you a good example. If I have access today to go and get some PPE, I'll literally go and buy thousands. I'll give it to all my staff, go take it home, give it to your family members. I'll do that, and I have done that. I've even donated to my local council in Watford. They needed masks, they needed PPE for the support workers who are helping through the charity to deliver food to people's houses. They run out of PPE. They sent me an email and they said, is it possible for you to, and I can show you the email if you want as well. Sure. So they said, we need PPE, food, this and that. I said, look, I'll help whatever I can. They asked me, they said, can you help us out with some masks or something? I said, yeah. So I had a good stash of masks, all right? I gave them half of my mask and I said, go ahead, here you go. So they appreciate that. They put me on Facebook and everything. This is what we do. I'm donating to the council because the council has zero access from the government.
That's crazy. I mean, the thing is, if you look on Amazon, for example, I was looking a couple of days ago, obviously it's getting more and more available, but very vague. What that means is before there was none available. Now there is available, but they're quite high priced.
Of course.
Where are those coming from? Where is those masks coming from then?
If you go and look at where they're made, majority of them are made in Taiwan, China, especially China. They're made there. Now, there's a funny fact. There's a documentary, and I'll try and see if I can find a link for it. If I can, I'll give it to you. There's a documentary that clearly shows how China is making the masks, medical masks, in a medical facility. They're making the mask, but outside countries, UK, USA, and you name it, multiple other countries, and they actually clearly say the names, will not and have orders, right? So they have placed orders in China, but they said, do not say medical mask, just say made in China.
Right.
So they're getting them as unbranded goods. It's coming to this country.
It's crazy because before you used to see them labeled even on in online sort of stores and stuff like that. It used to actually says medical mask, right? Now it's actually labeled as dust mask. It doesn't actually say medical.
It won't, because if it says medical, then there are other things, legal formats that has to go through. Companies are ordering it and they're hoarding it, right? So basically, a time like this, when the government says, oh, everybody go out, people are going to start looking for masks, they can put their prices up and they can get it.
Wow, that's crazy. So basically, it's like everyone's kind of stashing them away till a rainy day, right? Kind of thing, more or less.
Well, businesses with capacity to buy large quantities, right? Who have had access to delivery companies, international delivery companies. I won't name anything. Starts with D, and they've been basically, because they have their own private cargo thing. They've been flying in and out of countries. They've been getting the orders in, right? You know, we can still see them. So plenty of orders have come in. But it's coming at a premium because they're charging a premium. But it's come in, and the people who bought it are holding on to it.
Wow. So then, as an employee, for example, if I'm working in a major firm, I'd like to ask my company and say, look, what have you got before I come back to work? I'm just really like, I can't get the thought of it. It was announced yesterday, and then this morning, everyone has to go back to work. Shouldn't there be like, guys, girls?
There should have been a guideline. There should have been a set of rules put in place before. So the announcement should have been next week instead of tomorrow, right? Which gives enough time for the employers to also prepare. Also, some sort of an incentive should have been given to the employers. I don't think it's the right or the duty or anything of the employee to get his own. This should be provided, and employers should provide that, and the government should incentivize the employers to do that and give them enough time, sufficient time to get hold of the stock in order to do that.
Okay, so in terms of the lockdown, and again, I hate that word. I really hate that word. You know why? Because I was talking about lockdown, and in my mind, if somebody mentions a lockdown, it's like, have you seen the movie Purge?
Oh yes, 100%. This is the purge.
Right, that's lockdown, but not like everyone's out there. I mean, you have the odd people with, you know, in the film itself. I'm not going to go into. It's not a film for kids, by the way. So if you're a child watching it, don't watch it. It's for adults. It's not a really good film actually. But lockdown, the way I say, everyone stays at home. Lockdown. No one's going out. No one's in the street. But as you saw over the last few weeks,
lockdown makes it like when a country goes into lockdown, sounds like a police state to me.
Yeah, it's like the streets are empty.
Yeah, it's a police state, right? You're locked down. Everybody's a prisoner on the streets, right?
Would you say the word curfew would be a better word?
No, that's military.
No, curfew as in restrictions in terms of you can't go out.
But the curfew word, they use it. So the problem is when you take a certain word and you have a use for it, right? So curfew itself, yes, you're restricted to come out, but curfew in a normality, people will understand it as for a few hours or few days, right? So it changes things, and normally curfew is more of a thing. When you do a lockdown, you're more of a military police state, right? So you've locked down the country, which means nobody can come in or out, and the people are not allowed to go in or out, based on certain criteria. So either one of the words, I would say, not nice.
So would you say the words guidance and advice would be correct as the government have used it? Like, for example, like
that is much more kind. Yeah, definitely much more kind. I think it's more humane to use something like that.
So the recent guidelines is obviously the exercise amount is unlimited now. Again, I'll put the links at the bottom if you haven't seen the latest. Sham as well, I've just had a bit of a scope through it. I didn't really go in to sit down, watch the whole thing, because it can drag on, and I think sometimes it can get very boring. But we know it's been relaxed quite a bit. You can go out a lot more, meet people from outside of your house in certain places.
Basically, look, if I was going to word that and rephrase all of the things that they've put into this guideline, right, about this easing, this lockdown and whatever, ultimately, you can do unlimited exercise. Well, guess what? During the lockdown, everybody used the excuse of exercise in order to do whatever. So it's never been a limited exercise.
Yeah.
Now you make it unlimited, guess what? Everyone's just going to come and do 10 times more than what they did before, so they're just going to use it as an exercise. You can go out to meet friends and family. Well, why don't you just say we're back to normal? Because that's exactly what this implies, doesn't it?
I was actually watching it and I was like, exactly the same.
It's
like,
hilarious.
You can go out, right? And again, not just trying to sound negative, but sometimes, you know, when people waffle and it's like, just get to the point, right?
Yeah.
You can go out, now you can drive as far as you want and go.
Oh yeah,
to exercise,
I was watching a feed of the what's it called? The highway agency, right? So the highway agency, if you go to the website, you can actually see the feed of cameras, street cameras, right? And so after I heard all of that, I said, you know, I'm going to go into the feed and see what's happening. First few hours, nothing. A couple of hours more, nothing. It was about 4 hours after that news. Highways agency, go to the news feed.
Everyone's out.
Cars and cars and cars.
That's it.
On a Sunday.
Wow.
Now you explain that to me.
You know what? It was waiting to happen. It's like a ribbon to be cut. It's like, right, like let all the herd free now and just boom out.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. In my opinion, right? So I'm going to now kind of drift away from this, right? I'm going to say something, right?
Go ahead,
so in my opinion, this whole lockdown or whatever, right? When we went into lockdown in 23rd, was a good, I want to call it a drill. Okay, think about it as a drill, right? It's a scenario. Was the most like a scenario, a drill where the government says you lock down and everybody went in because everyone was fearful, so everyone locked themselves in. I too, right? And then now that they've seen the reaction, they've seen how many percentage and everybody actually went into lockdown. Now they've gone back in and they said, well, we're going to take the lockdown off, and then they saw the reaction, how people act on that. Currently, I would say the country within the next week, right? So even the lockdown was taken off yesterday or eased off. By next week, the government has to say nothing. Everybody will be back to normality. The 8 million people in London will be back on the streets. You know, if they're already not, by the way.
So I know I've asked you this question. It's a very interesting question, and I think you've actually got a video of yourself doing this. So I won't put a link until Sham tells me. But let's say today you were the Prime Minister, and you was going to give that same message, right?
I can't give the same message.
Not the same message.
Okay, I was meant to give a message.
Yeah, you were meant to give the message. Yes.
I would sit down with my board, number one. All right, all my ministers, everybody, I would sit down with them. Before I even go in front of a camera, I would have an actual action plan. Right? So I would have a proper action plan. These are the stages we're going to bring things out, right? You know, if we want people to go back to work, how we're going to do that, what we're going to provide, the support we're going to provide, all of these. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because we've just come out of a pandemic, or potentially come out of a pandemic. Our numbers are still in the region of 200-300 people per day. Some countries don't even have one a day, but we've got 200-300 a day. Is it safe to bring everybody back out, or even 50% of the public back out? We would have thought about that. So if I was there, my action plan would have been to ease it over, and we would have done sector by sector for at least another 3 months. I would not bring anybody out on the street, or, you know, I'll bring them in certain, you know, like numbers. So I would say these people are allowed, or these, it's like exercise, unlimited, fine, no problem. We're going to segregate it. We're going to allow all the gyms to open. People must exercise in the gyms. Two things. The gyms now are active again. So the revenues are coming back. People are now in a controlled location, controlled zone. If we have a breakout, guess what? We don't need a fake app. We can actually track them down, because this is where it happened. The people who went to the gyms, it came from the gym.
But then how would you control the gym? I mean, the gym has, let's say, 5,000 people.
We know 5,000 members are there. We know how many members went in on that day.
Right.
So all we have to do is track it for the incubation period of 2 weeks. Right? And now we know exactly how many people that person, how many times that person went, and how many people that person came into contact. It's a good way of monitoring. We don't need fancy apps for it.
No. I mean,
it's just a suggestion, right? So we open up, say for example, we've got millions of or hundreds of gyms around the country. We turn around and we say, just for the sake of it, one of the big one, the gym, right? So we say the gym is open. Everybody can go to the gym. Free membership. We are now putting everybody in one room, so we now can control what happens in that one room. So this is what I'm trying to say. So I'm just giving an example. So we do it in that particular way. We open one sector at a time. right? So we can control which sector, and each sector has to have the incubation period or a quarantine period type of a thing, a length, right? So 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we need to monitor. And that's how we do it. If we have a breakout, we know, okay, we've got a breakout, we know where to control it.
Yeah. I mean, I think they do have a strategy, but I think their strategy is too small. Like
no.
Wider,
What strategy? The only strategy I believe that they have is to vaccinate everybody with a vaccine that has not been proven to work. Any vaccine takes up to 6 years to produce. They said they can produce it within 18 months, and we've only been in lockdown for 6-7 weeks now, and apparently they already have a vaccine. Explain that to me, somebody. Sorry, explain that to me, because I'm lost now. That's the only solution they have, is everybody's infected and everyone's going to get vaccinated. And I disagree, because I don't want to be vaccinated. I don't need any vaccine. I don't need any medication. I've been all right so far until then. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the potential is the side effects. Every medication that you take, even a paracetamol, does have a side effect.
Side effect,
We don't know how long that side effect's going to come.
Let's talk about side effects, right? Okay, let's go to side effects. Years ago, before people figured out, or like, so certain individuals, a very small percentage of the planet decided or figured out that pharmaceutical industry is the biggest money-making business in the world. We didn't have vaccines. We go 100 years back. Let's go 1920. 1920s. How many children were born and had to get vaccinated? Probably none. How many people had to go to a hospital? Probably none, right? So we had none of these things. Then we move over all the way to like 1950s and 60s, yeah, where certain companies figure out, 1 or 2 companies pop out. We're the big pharmaceutical companies. And then we have these big outbreaks of certain things, right? Pharmaceutical companies have been known to create more problems than solution. All right. So kids back in the 1950s and 60s, when they were born, they had to get their vaccinations done, right? But the vaccination was only 2. Currently, we're being vaccinated for everything. But what are you vaccinating me for? It's a kid. It's just been born. It hasn't had the disease. None of his family members had the disease. My kid's being vaccinated, and I question it. And unfortunately, back in the days, I didn't really understand much. Now, if I had a child and someone says vaccine, I was like, no, call me an anti-vaccine. But no, why would I vaccinate them against something they've never been exposed to in the first place?
I think they're trying to prevent.
Prevention is better than cure. Fine. Okay. So let's go back to 1970s. I'm going to go back to 70s, right?
Yeah.
In 1970s, you had 0 autism, or even if you did, it was like 1 in every 10,000 or something autism, right? Now look at the numbers. That's when the vaccine came out. So since the vaccine came out, 1 in 20 now has autism. So was it the vaccine that was preventing it, or was it the vaccine that was causing it?
Yeah, that's a scary thought. So a lot of people out there are also thinking about vaccines, about getting tested and whether, the test is accurate and stuff like that. And again, this video is not saying you should or shouldn't. It's just a personal thought.
You have your own opinion, exactly. I mean, for me,
course,
I have my opinion. You have your opinion.
Yeah.
We obviously, independently each have their own.
Sure.
But I'm just telling you what I feel, my view, my version of what I think is going on, and how I feel regarding vaccination. I'm all for vaccination. I'm all for medicine. I love doctors. I love everybody out there who are trying to save lives. But one thing I really want to understand, research. We need to have independent companies who do not, who are not funded by big corporations or whatnot, right? Who will do independent studies on vaccines, right? Independent studies on vaccines, and anonymously give their results to a board who will then review and see if those vaccines work. Currently, everything is one-sided. The pharmaceutical company owns the medicine. They make the medicine, they do the vaccines, they do everything, they do the research, they do the testing, everything in-house. And then guess what they do on top of that, just after they've done it? Patent. So you, the third party or the independent, will never get access to it. So how is anybody supposed to find out what's inside the vaccine, or what causes that, or what effects? And to find out effects, to study the effects of a vaccine after it's been given to somebody, you need many, many years.
Of course, no. I mean, there was one particular one where they took them like sort of between 9 and 15 years to get to the research of developing it, and we're talking about weeks now. Where the things
It
being
doesn't
out,
make sense. It doesn't make sense.
It can't be fast tracked like that.
No.
Because I was speaking to somebody. The cure of the disease could lie in a seed of a cherry. You'd have to test every single item there is out there,
Absolutely.
right?
Let's give you another good example, right? COVID-19, right? The coronavirus that came out in 19, right? Which is also known as SARS version 2, by the way. So if anybody didn't know. So COVID-19 was a code word given to coronavirus in the 2019 because it came out in December. Now, SARS version 2 is a slight modification or slight difference from SARS version 1. So if we go back to SARS version 1, which happened in around 2002, 2003, the outbreak. So medical teams and experts went into making a vaccine. They tried to make a vaccine for that back in 2002, 2003. They spent years on it and then realized the virus died.
Yeah.
So then they scrapped the virus, the vaccine, back in 2007, 2008. They scrapped the vaccine. After that, there has been other studies they've been doing on it. And no talk about a vaccine. So all of a sudden, you got a version 2, which is completely different, apparently, from SARS 1, and you have a vaccine. I'm confused.
So one point I want to make an advice: never get sham started on a topic like this, because it will just go deeper and deeper. And you know what? You actually have some very valid points. And we are going to be doing some separate videos on this. And again, it's up to each individual person to take this in their own manner and research it themselves. But it's not to get you scared or paranoid.
No, definitely. Guys, my mission, all right, so I have a mission, right? So I have a channel and everything, and my mission is very simple. I want everybody to wake up. And I don't mean wake up as in this bubble and this and that. I do call it a bubble, but I don't mean any of those things. Waking up, self-wake. Be aware of everything. Try and take everything with a pinch of salt. Ask questions. Ask questions. For example, I'm asking myself a question. What am I doing here today? That's a good question, right? So you can start off with something as simple as that and then see what you come up with. There's nothing wrong with being knowledgeable and finding answers to your own questions. Don't take answers that are given to you. Don't take anything I'm telling you, right, for granted. Go and do your own research.
That's perfectly put. And again, what are we doing here today? We're just having a discussion.
Exactly.
This isn't any medical information. This isn't any scientific information. This is two good friends having a good chat. And again, you can have a chat amongst yourselves as well. Now that you're going to be seeing your friends and seeing your family, it's going to open up your mind, because people have been cooped up thinking about all these thoughts that are going through their head. It's literally like solitary confinement. When people go into a room and they're there for hours and hours. Imagine you're in a house. You may be by yourself or with somebody that you don't really get along with, and you have all these thoughts. Now you're coming out and it's all it's like an open field. It's really scary. So definitely we are going to be putting some other videos, and hope this lockdown hasn't got the worst of you. Actually, it's brought out a better side of you as well. And I'm hoping that people, when they recover from the situation, that we all become better people in terms of putting away the kind of many silly thoughts that we had, and just get on with life in a kind of broader mind, right?
That's it. I mean, one thing you have to notice, what this virus or breakout or pandemic has done. Us human beings, we're so different, and that's beautiful, right? We're different. We've been created in such a unique way where no two people are the same. But guess what this virus did? Made us all act the same way. We all was afraid of it. We all locked ourselves at home. We all thought about the effects of what this could do. Those kind of things. This virus didn't treat us differently. It actually made us all the same. Respect that. We're all humans, So very powerful, very powerful. I mean, regardless whether the virus is there or not, right? This virus has done one thing. It's brought us all closer. And that's very powerful. And I think we could have other positive things apart from this negative thing in life to bring us all close.
Sure. And that's it. That's what I always think to myself, think yourself as somebody who's been through a trauma and brought you out the other side. and again, look at the brighter things in life, you know, because we may have not been able to, for example, watch this video or even make this video. So, like I said, keep yourself safe, stay safe. Obviously, if you have to do, I'm not going to give any Boriss kind of advice or anything like that, but just common sense, you know, just keep yourself safe, you know, get out there, obviously have some fresh air and stuff like that.
Guys,
but,
I want to step in 1 second.
Go on.
While everybody is getting ready, right, no,
Right.
this is good. We've had Boriss, I just thought about it, I was like, damn, I don't want to miss this one. I have to give you this message. Obviously, we listen to Boriss, he's good, he's our leader, regardless what happens, right? He's good or bad, doesn't matter, he's still our leader. So we've had the easing of the lockdown, which is fantastic. Now, the biggest message I want to give to you that Boriss may have missed, okay? So, if I was the Prime Minister, let's go back
go on,
again.
far away, mate.
Guys, don't get too excited. Go out, see your friends, do your exercise, go to work, do everything. All of those things Boriss told you, go and do. But don't forget hygiene. Make sure to wash your hands. Make sure to keep yourself protected. Make sure if you've got a sneeze or a cough, whatever, all right, you wear a mask. Forget the other person giving it to you. You got to make sure you don't give it to anybody. Those are the powerful things. Make sure to wash your hands 20 times a day if you have to. It doesn't matter. What's the harm in washing your hands? Keep yourself clean, right? Those are the kind of, so whatever measures you've been taking now, when you go out of house and when you come into the house and keeping your hands and, you know, your hygiene, your hands clean, and continue doing that. Sanitizers, keep it, no worries, you know? So those, don't forget what you've did in the last 7 weeks. Don't forget that, because if you forget that, you're just going to bring it all back.
It shouldn't stop. And you know what? You've touched a very soft spot there, because I actually said the same thing. You know, as I was listening to that, I'm like, before it was just wash your hands, wash your hands, wash it. That's the only way we're going to get through this. And all of a sudden, I don't need to wash my hands now. You know, people get complacent.
Yeah.
People say, I don't need, because the virus is not there anymore.
Exactly.
Don't need hand sanitizers. You know, you go to shops now, there are hand sanitizers available. A few, I think it was a week back, I went to a shop. Before there was only one hand sanitizer per person, and the lady was like, how many do you want? We've got so many now, so there's an influx of hand sanitizers wherever you go, big shops.
Well, hand
shops.
sanitizers, you can actually make them at home. That I'm not going to talk too much about that. However, companies, the government has eased off certain regulations, so now more and more small companies are allowed to make hand sanitizers. This is why we have enough available.
No, there's the branded ones now. I mean, they're not the cheapy ones that you see, oh, what is this? There were hand sanitizers.
They're all same. They're all same, all right? We're not going to go to branded. They're all same. Hand sanitizers are hand sanitizers, all right?
But there was ones that didn't have alcohol, and they were more like moisturizers and stuff like that. That's what I'm trying to say. So now the mainline ones are available. You can go and buy big packs, and they're not overpriced as well. I picked up one. It was 250 mils. I remember it was about 15 quid a few weeks back. Now, £3.50.
15 quid. That guy needs to be reported, and he needs to be sued.
Yeah, definitely. And if he is still in business, I don't think he should be. And
we need to get the trading standards on them, because they've been overpricing. Those kind of people need to be stopped.
Oh, we are going to do a separate video. I'm going to do a separate video. And I promised the viewers out there, I'm going to go visit those shops. I know who you are. I've got a list of people, and I'm going to come and ask you those questions. I'm sorry to say, you know, somebody like a consumer, a family man like myself, I find it very difficult going to these shops and buying overpriced items, and I am going to make you come and feel very, very guilty about it, and hopefully, you know, you have a turn in life. And
you are exposed.
You give that money to charity, and we'll call it square.
Exactly,
okay?
yeah.
Sam, I want to thank you. I'm not going to shake your hands because it's still,
Thank
whatever.
you. There we go.
But yeah, thanks for listening, and see you soon.
Thank you, guys. Catch you soon.